This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH. Coming up on this weekend's broadcast, it was a very busy National Agriculture Week. Hello, everyone. We welcome you to This Week in Agribusiness. Always great to have the opportunity to stop by your place. We appreciate it. Mr. Pearson, you had a busy week.
I did. Got to celebrate Ag Day with Huntington University in Indiana, Max. It was a lot of fun to talk to those students this week.
We were in the nation's capital. The Secretary of Agriculture, hosting that formal ceremony at the USDA for Ag Day, said, "We need more than one day."
Today, we're going to celebrate farmers, ranchers, and producers. Why today? Why just one day? Why not every day? That's my problem with this. I think we let the country get off the hook a little easy by having one day. Seems to me we ought to recognize farmers, ranchers, and producers and what they do for this country every single day.
It's the Ag Council of America that puts on Agriculture Day each year. A bunch of companies and associations are a part of that council, including Growmark, the cooperative headquartered in Bloomington, Illinois. Amy Bradford is with them.
It was almost an electricity in the room, and I was really encouraged to see that because it's been a while since we've really had this type of format for National Ag Day, and we're just really fortunate to be able to welcome students and farmers and ranchers as we celebrate the 50th year of National Ag Day.
There is something about being here in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the People's Agency, I think it's been called by some. And of course, there's such a rich heritage as you look around on the walls of the Ag secretaries, reminding us of a great history and great heritage in Ag. But the youth here was, those young people were hard to miss.
Yes, they were, and it was so inspiring to see them and their excitement and hear their stories, and really encouraging all of us to share our stories with others and our role in agriculture and how it really is one of the best industries to be in.
Over its 50 years, some companies have been a part of Ag Day for many years, among them John Deere. Jenny Batting is with Deere.
Yeah, so John Deere has been a long-standing sponsor of National Ag Day. We've been on the planning committee as well, and we just think it's really important to celebrate our farmers and producers and ranchers and all of the things that they do to help clothe, feed, and fuel the world.
You know, the Secretary was talking about the fact that he feels every day should be Ag Day, and he referenced the fact that there are so many people dependent upon agriculture, and he mentioned the Ankeny, Iowa John Deere plant.
Yeah, he did mention one of our facilities, and he's right. You know, today is National Ag Day, but we celebrate, at John Deere, we celebrate our farmers and ranchers and producers every day. You know, we work hand in hand with them. We listen to the challenges that they face, and we're always innovating in our technology to help them do more with less. You know, there's a growing population that they are being tasked to feed, and they have to do more with less. So that's where our technology is coming in to help them do that.
Well, there was no display on the National Mall of Farm Equipment this year for Ag Day, but there was still that focus of attention on that special day set aside. Quite a buzz in the social media, we noticed.
Absolutely, Max. And there certainly was enough ag equipment on display at Commodity Classic, where we had a chance to catch up with the Mosaic Company. They've recently released 2 new biologicals, and we spoke to Dion Pierce, who's a product manager there, about why these biologicals are coming from Mosaic.
Mosaic has been a leader in the phosphorus and potash industry for quite some time. But as we learn more about the soil microbiome, right, and how fertility and microbiology react in the soil, we're kind of taking our focus from a balanced crop nutrition to an advanced crop nutrition understanding. And that's our focus moving forward, and the reason that we're pulling in and moving into the biological market as well.
Balanced versus advanced. Dion, could you explain a little bit, what are the distinctions between the two?
So a good way to think about it is the relationship between fertility and biologicals. Okay, so just as important as fertility is to the plant, it's also to understand that some of those nutrients that are applied are going to become locked up. And when we do mining, right, we're going to take a phosphorus or a potash, we're going to turn that into a prill that a grower can use and apply to their field. Well, these biologicals kind of work the same way. They're going to mine the soil, and they're going to make those nutrients more available for the plant to utilize when it needs them most.
timing, when the mining is happening from these biological products, how does that work into the corn growth cycle, and how can that help promote yield?
So we have a couple options with ours. So you can utilize it in furrow as a liquid application. You can utilize it at a side dress application as a liquid. You can also coat it to your fertilizer. So you could do a fall application, you could do a spring application, a broadcast, a banded. We have technologies that can fit or products that can fit any application type wherever the grower needs. Make it nice and easy for the grower.
Dion, you've been talking a lot about the corn sprint here at Commodity Classic 2023. What is that, and why is Mosaic concerned about that particular growing period for corn?
So what we think about is the corn sprint is, we're getting up to that V4, V5 stage, and that plant's really starting to take off, right? That's when it's going to pull in majority of the nutrients it's going to utilize to grow and set its yield potential. And so when we think about that corn sprint, we want to make sure that there's a maximum availability of nutrients for that plant to utilize with less waste, if you will. And that's really where we're focused on the corn sprint. Let's get those nutrients available, have them ready to go, so when that corn plant takes off during its sprint, we're going to be able to win.
Where can our audience go to learn more about these products from Mosaic?
The best place to go would be cropnutrition.com. You can learn about the biologicals and the other performance products from Mosaic.
That was Dion Pierce, product manager from the Mosaic Company. This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Firestone Ag. The Firestone Ag Dealer Network offers you the support, inventory, and resources you need. Visit firestoneag.com to find your local certified dealer. And it's time to take a look at the markets. Joining us this week is Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing. And Dwayne, we saw the world really focus in on actions from the Federal Reserve this past week. What did Fed Chair Jerome Powell do with regard to interest rates?
What they ended up doing is raising the interest rate a 0.25%, which is really what the trade anticipated. So that wasn't a shock. But what I did tune into was his comments afterwards. And they first started off a little hawkish that inflation's too high. We're going to have to maybe continue raising interest rates. And the market wasn't really thrilled with that. But then by the end, he kind of summed it up in the question and answer segment a little bit more dovish. I felt that he had to answer a lot of questions about the banking crisis and that if we have to, we'll lower rates to help that out. But he also said that the banking sector is very strong. So a little bit for everyone. He kind of talked like a broker, actually, I thought.
Well, so we saw that action from the Federal Reserve. As you mentioned, the trade was anticipating that 0.25% increase. But Dwayne, the past couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of market participants get out of the commodity trade, haven't we?
Yeah, we sure have, and I think that's a very big point to bring up is we've had fund liquidation in our markets. Corn, over the last month, the funds have managed money has got out of 300,000 contracts. They're now short the market, which is amazing considering where they were the last 2 years they've been long. And really the trade action, we saw this last week in soybeans, I feel like they probably got out of long positions there as well. They're short the wheat market. So yeah, funds, a lot of money movement, I guess I'd say, with the banking crisis that came up, and funds don't want to be long right now, which is interesting going into the growing season.
Dwayne, you mentioned we've seen a lot of money movement here over the past 6-8 weeks. We've also not had the CFTC commitment of traders data. Are we finally getting back up to speed on those releases to have more information on these markets?
We are finally getting back up to speed, and yeah, it's unfortunate that we didn't realize the funds were getting out of that many corn positions. Now, it's always a kind of a flawed maybe report anyway. It comes out Friday afternoon, but it's as of the Tuesday night trade, so you're always behind. But yeah, not getting those reports were maybe just a little bit of a disadvantage to traders the last month, but it was very interesting how much funds got out of corn, and really without the market completely tanking. I mean, I know we're well off the highs, but 300,000 contracts, that's a lot of long contracts to get out of. The commercials were in there buying it as well at the same time, which is maybe a good sign for corn.
So if we've got producers looking at making some new crop marketing decisions, Dwayne, are there any actions you'd want to see them here take soon?
Not right now. Obviously, we've had this big dip from the highs, obviously, and we all look back now and say we should have done a little bit more. So at this level, with the funds out of their long positions, I'm not looking to make any new crop sales. Yeah, the prices are still okay. So if you're worried, some put options are maybe fine. I'm really leaning and hoping and waiting for a spring rally, a weather scare in the U.S. that I think can definitely happen. That could put us right back up to those highs.
All right, Dwayne, on the wheat side of the ledger, are you watching for any movement here in this next week in the Chicago contracts?
Chicago contracts, we had a bounce off the lows, off a short cover. Remember, the funds were actually record short that market. So if money flow was an issue, they actually bought some of those contracts back. That was the recent pop we had. And then this past week, we really tanked right back down to the lows. We're not competitive in the export market, so I look for a sideways to maybe even slightly lower trade in the wheat market moving forward.
All right, we'll continue to watch that global wheat market. When we return, we'll talk soybeans and what's happening in the livestock sector here with Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing. This portion of This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Firestone Ag. Harvey Firestone invented the first pneumatic farm tire, forever changing what it means to farm hard. Visit firestoneag.com to learn more about this history and tire solutions for today. We're back discussing the markets with Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing. And Dwayne, thinking about the wheat market, we're getting ready to put that spring wheat crop in the ground if we can see the ground. There's a lot of snow cover up north. What's that going to do with this market?
Yeah, exactly. We're not really getting ready too quickly up here because if you look outside, it doesn't feel like planting's anywhere close. We've got a huge snowpack in the Dakotas right now. We'd love to be starting to get ready to plant some wheat here, but it's just not going to happen. And I think it's interesting because spring wheat really can't lose any acres. So we're at a 15-year low with old crop supplies, but right now it does kind of look like it might lose some acres. So it'll be an interesting maybe acreage battle moving forward with this much snow in the northern plains.
Well, that's true, Dwayne. And as we think about acreage, we're coming up on a new year. Are we going to see more prevent plant in the cards this year?
That's a really interesting subject right now. When we look at the drought monitor, I think the trade this winter has really kind of thought and assumed that we're going to have very low prevent plant. Now, I think most of the trade estimates has prevent plant around 2.5 to 3.0 million. Now, the average over the last 16 years is actually about 5.75. So, and I understand looking at the drought monitor, but remember after 2012, that drought year, we had 13 million acres of prevent plant the next year. So the drought monitor doesn't really indicate what we're going to have in the spring. And I can tell you right now, looking out my window, I was moving snow yesterday. I feel like we're going to have above average prevent plant up here.
All right, we'll keep an eye on the weather to the north. Dwayne, the weather to the south is certainly moving markets in the soybean market as we've seen that Brazilian crop come out. Are those Brazilians continuing to make harvest progress?
Yeah, they really are picking up speed now. The weather finally cleared off for them. Argentina got some more rain. So as harvest progresses, you might see some selling pressure on our markets. And I think that's maybe you saw some of that this last week here on our soybean market. They're actually having trouble with storage capacity because this crop is so big. And don't take that as a bullish story. It's maybe a bullish very short term, but they're going to take that stuff straight to market and sell it. So yeah, record crop in Brazil, no doubt about it.
With that crop moving onto the market, Dwayne, for new crop growers in the U.S., are you taking any marketing action?
On soybeans, I'm not here either. We can look back and go, maybe we should have done a little bit more. I think we're all saying that right now. But at this level, we filled an important gap in November beans after a crash this past week. I'm actually wondering if we don't turn our attention and look at something called like courage calls. If you want to buy an August short-dated $14 courage call, maybe that gives you the courage to make more sales as we have a spring rally. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now.
All right, let's turn our focus over to the livestock industry. Dwayne, the cattle market has been on a roll for the past several months. Do you think that strength can continue into spring?
I think so. I know it's been a little bit rocky here the last couple of weeks, a little bit of a dip, but a good bull is to use that as a dip in a bull market and just correcting the overbought condition. We had a lot of money flow. We had the stock market, the banking crisis. There's a part of me that thinks April and June cattle, this pullback action was fairly organized considering the banking crisis we had. Cash cattle trade was maybe down just a little bit this week. Packers are good at seeing a lower futures market and grinding that market lower, but inventories are still super tight, Mike, and I really think we can have a bullish market going into the spring, especially if the outside markets can calm down just a little bit for me.
It's all about keeping that consumer demand up, isn't it, Dwayne?
It sure is. Now exports have been pretty good for beef here lately too, and pork as well. So if we can keep that going, then I think we're actually quite bullish that cattle market. If we can get the outside markets to calm down and maybe interest rates maybe start lowering later in the year, we could actually make new all-time highs for the cattle market.
All right, things to look for in the cattle business. That's Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing. Dwayne, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.
Colby Ag Tech is brought to you by Copperhead Ag Products. Visit copperheadag.com for more information. Yes, Mr. Colby was looking around for all kinds of technology at that big construction show in Vegas, and he looked into the cabin under the hood of Big Bud.
What's it like to bring this tractor back to market? Certainly there is a demand.
Well, we really wanted to show here that we've got the most heavy-duty tractor that is offered by the ag industry. But the ag industry tractors also pull scrapers. And so we are here at the industrial show because we're with Rome. Rome is our partner. They've been in the construction type equipment business for years. And we wanted to show that we can bring a tractor like this and pull any of the things that Rome offers, scrapers, etc.
You know, Ron, I'm not going to lie to you, though. I'm 51 years old, grew up in the Midwest as a farm kid. Everybody wanted a Big Bud. Wherever there is a Big Bud, everybody looks. There's a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces here seeing this coming back to life.
Well, we just think it's timely. You know, back in the highly competition days where there was a lot of other competition. Well, what's nice for us is, because the rebuild business has been really good to us, okay? We didn't really have to do this, but we did it because we think the industry, there's a pretty big need out there.
Well, the nice part is, too, is you're still taking advantage of some great engine technology, great transmissions, my goodness, tire technology. Oh, can't even imagine what it was like to tie down a 750 horse tractor 35 years ago compared to today.
Right.
There's a lot of those things too. You got a Viper in here, a Raven. That's the best monitor you can buy for the last 10 years.
That's right.
And even your drivetrain. It's all CAT. We know that's easy to fix. I think you're going to get a lot of attention for the right reasons with this tractor.
Well, we think so, and it's very enlightening for us to come to the ConExpo show and have a diverse group of people to talk to, whether they be a contractor, whether they whatever, or farmers, and to hear from them that they feel like maybe we're on the right track here.
No. Well, there's no question. I was just standing next to you when a farmer said, I came to the show only to see the Big Bud. He just said it, I was standing there. So, Ron, it's got to make you feel good. I think you're on the right path here.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And did I hear a rumor that this tractor or one like it's going to be at the Farm Progress Show this year?
That's our plan.
Oh, that's awesome. There'll be a lot of farmers that'll be seeing you there at the farm show.
Well, thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing Big Bud later in the summer at Decatur, Illinois, the Farm Progress Show.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. Max, it's time to learn about agriculture. Where are we going this week?
Muscle Shoals, you know what state that is?
That's Alabama.
I knew you'd know. Let's join Charlie Behrens now as he tells us about Alabama agriculture.
The United States of America can be very different from one state to another, but one thing every state has in common is agriculture.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlie Behrens and welcome to the Agricultural States of America, where we explore the agriculture of different states and hopefully give you some more appreciation for all the great things that farmers are producing across America. Now today we're looking at the state of Alabama. Popular for college football, Gulf Shores, muscle shows, home to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, and of course, the peanut capital of the world in Dothan. Seriously, if you buy a jar of roasted peanuts or peanut butter, chances are it came from Dothan. Alabama's peanut farmers rank third in the nation for peanut growing, but the Dothan area is responsible for the majority of all peanut production in the U.S. Every fall, the town celebrates this achievement with the National Peanut Festival, where they crown the new Miss National Peanut. It's even believed that Mr. Peanut has a summer home in Dothan, but have not confirmed that yet. Now, Alabama is often referred to as the Cotton State because cotton is indigenous to the Gulf Coast area, and it has the longest history as a farmable crop in the state. Most of the cotton grown in Alabama and the U.S. is called upland cotton. It's used in everything from plastics and papers to diapers and t-shirts. Today, Alabama ranks in the top 10 among cotton growing states, and within the state, cotton remains the most popular row crop with more acreage than corn, soybeans, peanuts, and wheat. That is a whole lot of cotton. Cotton is not only a great cash crop for farmers, but it's also relatively drought tolerant and ideal for rotation with other crops such as peanuts and soybeans. Overall, agriculture is one of Alabama's top industries, with at least 1 out of every 5 jobs being ag-related and contributing over $70 billion to the state's economy. Alabama's largest farming sector by far is poultry, or chickens, and more specifically, broilers. Alabama raises eggs too, but over the past 40 years, the majority of the nation's egg production has moved to the Midwestern states like Iowa. Broilers, on the other hand, which are chickens raised to eat, have been a primary focus of Alabama for nearly 100 years and has continued to flourish. Today, Alabama is the second leading state in total production of broilers, raising more than 1.2 billion birds each year. So I hope you appreciated all those nuggets of information. It's safe to say chicken has a tender spot in Alabama's heart. All right, poultry in Alabama makes up over 65% of all annual farming revenue in the state and employs more than 86,000 people across the industry. And that's great because we eat a lot of chicken. In fact, on average, each American consumes approximately 93 pounds of chicken meat and more than 267 eggs each year. In addition to chickens, Alabama farmers raise a fair share of cattle and fish, more professionally referred to as aquaculture or aqua farming. Today, Alabama has over 150 aqua farms that grow everything from tilapia to trout and bass, catfish, and of course, let's not forget flounder. And not to drown you with the details, but Alabama has an ideal climate for aquaculture, and farmers began embracing it in the 1960s as the technology became more accessible. In 2020, Alabama produced 1/3 of all U.S. raised farm catfish. And after hearing all of that, I think it is safe to say the Alabama aqua farming industry is going swimmingly. All right, that's my last pun for the day because that's all the time we have for now. But you can always go to pivotbio.com/agstates, click on the show icon to explore more about the agriculture of your favorite states and test your knowledge to win great prizes and more. I'm Charlie Behrens, and we will see you next time on the Agricultural States of America.
Oh, there had to be something there that you did not know about Alabama agriculture. Our thanks to Charlie Behrens. And if you want more information on the Ag States of America, you can just go to that website, pivotbio.com/agstates. Well, there were a lot of states represented when we were in Washington this week at the nation's capital. You know, this time of the year is a big time for lobbying. When the House and Senate happen to be in, especially if they're both in, you'll have not just farm organizations, but yes, several farm groups. I met farmers there, especially from Michigan this week, who were in to see their lawmakers. And then you'll have unions there lobbying. You'll have educators, realtors, various groups that go to Washington to have their say, to exercise their right to lobby their lawmakers. And where in the world were you?
Well, I was 2 steps behind that, Max. That policy comes up from the ground, and I was working with the folks at Huntington University. It's a small liberal arts college in Huntington, Indiana. And 8 years ago, they started an ag program, and it's been growing steadily for 8 years. They do an ag breakfast every year for Ag Day. I had the chance to go and talk to them and to hear the enthusiasm for the young folks in that program to pursue agriculture, both production, Max, but importantly, as you note, they're curious about policy, they're curious about law, and that's what we need in ag.
I know it will shock you. I've been on that campus.
Really?
Of course I've been there. There's more coming up on this weekend's This Week in Agribusiness. We talked to the president of the American Farm Bureau this week. That visit is coming up. This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry, is brought to you by Case IH.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. Max, you know, we talk a lot about technology on the farm and how it can improve efficiencies. But when that technology shuts down and you're in the field, it can bring you to a halt real fast.
Oh, a piece of electronics in the cab invariably will stop working when you need it the most. That's when you might need the folks at Ag Express. Jim Steinke is with that company. They step up to repair things for farmers.
Ag Express is a service-based company that started 30 plus years ago. We have locations in Des Moines, Iowa, Grand Island, Nebraska, Sulphur Springs, Indiana, and a manufacturing facility in Warren, Indiana. Started as a company that was just service-based, just 100% repair, and we have grown to where we do board level repair still, but we also build custom wiring harnesses, OEM solutions, and our own product line, the Vanguard product.
Share with us how you fill that need of repairing existing equipment from a variety of lines.
So anything that's in agriculture, as far as electronics go, we usually try to fix it. We never know, so we get stuff from dealers, we get stuff from the OEMs, but we also get stuff from the farmers, direct from the farmers, and that's usually the niche that we fill. And we just fix it when it walks in the door, it's sent in. We fix it usually within 48 hours of getting it and send it back to them. It only breaks when they're using it. And so, it's a very time-sensitive product when you're trying to fix it for them.
You have to have a good crew to do that. They have to, first of all, be knowledgeable, talented, and to be able to work with dispatch.
Exactly. So each location has several 6 to 8 service technicians, and the location in Des Moines actually has a Trimble-based location too. So they basically have 8 or 9 people that just repair Trimble equipment. They come in, we train them the way that they need to be trained. A lot of them come in with associate degrees in electronics, but they don't know ag. So we have to teach them the ag and what they're doing. And the conceptual view of ag is important.
Yeah, they need to know that individual that they're working with, what his or her needs are out there.
They need to know the purpose of the equipment that they're working on, right, and why that exists in the world. That why is very important to fully understanding our customer base.
I tend to think of things utilized out in the cab, but moisture testers, I suppose, would fall into the realm of things you'd work on?
Yeah, we work on moisture testers. We're a Dickie John authorized repair center, so we work on moisture testers. They're like 40 years old. Moisture testers they have a very good longevity, and so we repair those too, yeah.
So, regardless of where the producer is or whatever their need might be, the place to start to get to the right office and the right number would be through the website?
Yeah, so go to our website, www.agexpress.com. There's a form, there's a repair order form that's on that they can fill out that has all the shipping information, has the locations, it has their phone numbers, everything on that.
Oh, that sounds simple.
Yeah, that is easy. That's the easiest route to Ag Express is through our website.
It really is a rather easy process to send something to Ag Express. There's a form to fill out right there on their website, as Jim mentioned, agexpress.com. Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead, presented by Pivot Bioproven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot Bioproven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. Those of us who have watched closely California weather and its impact on agriculture for many years have been affected, I think, by the pendulum swing. How far it can swing, how quickly it can change, and how dramatic the weather impact can be, Greg.
That's right. Yeah, and it continues on this week. Drought relief, I think, is what you're getting at out there.
More than that.
Yeah, and literally from a drought to a flood. And the beat goes on. You wanted recharge, you got it, and then some. And I tell you, we've got another doozy of a weather pattern up and down the West Coast here for this week. Early on here, still this entrenchment of Arctic air, systems digging into the Pacific Northwest, kicking out of the plains, and the snowpack and snow cover has been there since, what, mid-November from the Dakotas eastward through Minnesota. We'll add to it this week. Cold pocket in this trough, and note the low and the buckling jet stream pattern represented by these purple arrows here. It is a digging phenomenon. One system back into the plains, another late season snow. Livestock managers here. And this system, again, expected to come southward and impact areas of California. So the drought monitor from last week, improvement. It will continue on this week across the western states, and actually too much of a good thing. Things pretty benign early in the week across the southwestern sections of the country. Another one of these four corners lows expected to kick out across the plains. More high wind potential here. 60, 70 miles an hour last week. We'll marry up the upper level winds, low level winds, and do the same thing with this system. And again, we still need significant moisture. We're nibbling away at the drought, but over the western states, big improvement. Looky here, this buckle jet stream pattern back into flooding in severe mode. This is probably a storm that goes back into the perhaps mid to late January scenario from a strength and precip standpoint. More flooding. There are planting restrictions in that Salinas Valley area of California because of too much water. And we kick this system into the plains. Showers and thunderstorms, heavy and severe, maybe a little more moisture max for some of the worst drought areas of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma.
Well, they need it right through there. That just stands out when you take a look at the drought map. that. That Oklahoma panhandle, the panhandle of Texas, still quite dry too.
That's right. Anytime they get moisture, get the next of these weather systems to blow on through, and then you kick up 60 and 70 mile an hour winds, and you dry it right back out again. Speaking of drying out, we're trying to get that going, but it's really no story of dryness and fieldwork operations. Central and southern Corn Belt coming off the recent spell of rain. More snow into the upper Midwest. Chilly high pressure across the Red River Valley of the north. You were down below zero last week. Signs that we're going to probably keep some of that Arctic air for now up north, but it's another colder wraparound effect of a double barrel low across the plains. Northern and central locales, heads up on accumulating snow here. A melt through the upper Midwest with snow and rain with showers and thunderstorms and more drenching rainfall for the central and southern Corn Belt. Keep an eye on the streams and rivers. That drought weather pattern, except for the thumb area of Michigan, is over with. Here's the next weather system through the Ozark Plateau. It's a weak one making its way out of the southern plains. More windy, cooler weather in the desert southwest and a couple of showers and thunderstorms in the Gulf Coast. This next system coming across the southwest, another healthy jet stream segment accompanies it. Gulf moisture, showers and thunderstorms heavy and severe for the lower Mississippi Valley, eastern Texas. More high wind potential back into the panhandle and colder air too for the desert southwest.
I keep thinking I can put away my earmuffs and my mittens, but maybe not yet.
No, you know what? We will probably end up going into early springtime, wishing we had January and part of December and even February back, considering the degree of mild air. So here it is, a little snow melt for the upper sections of New England, high pressure mid-Atlantic region, a weak weather system and a couple of showers into the central and southern Corn Belt locales, giving way to another dynamic storm. Late season style across the plains and western Corn Belt, showers and thunderstorms here. Snow for the upper Midwest, back into some cold high pressure for the northeast and New England. The weather pattern stays busy for the foreseeable future across the Corn Belt. Cool high pressure southeastern states, more moisture back in eastern Texas, and the next low comes racing out of there with showers and thunderstorms heavy and severe. That'll be spreading through the mid-Atlantic region and parts of Florida that continue on in drought mode.
Greg Solier is back with his extended farm weather forecast for the country, presented by Pivot BioProven 40. Predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen. Turn to Pivot BioProven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. Seems like we often talk about the potential for spring flooding. We'll see if the precip of the week ahead will add to that. Greg, share the story with us.
We shall, and it will be more snow for some of those areas that we're keeping an eye out for. Moderate and high risk for parts of the upper Midwest, upper Mississippi Valley, river basin, sections of the Red River Valley of the North. You melt down the moisture this week, and there'll be probably a couple of snows again on top of what we're holding in that snow pack out of the Dakotas in the upper Midwest. Easily another inch here, another 1 to 2 in some of these increasingly waterlogged areas of the central and southern Corn Belt. I know we're a couple of 2 or 3 weeks away from getting in the fields. I don't see it materializing. Some downpours over the deep south and southeastern states. We'll get something in good coverage. And through Florida, there is dryness and drought here. Some moisture in the high plains areas, but look at this precipitation pattern early in the week, shifting southward into California, kicking out in the desert southwest. Some of those mountain locales upwards of a half a foot of water equivalency. And the Sierra Max is holding some 60 inches of moisture, rainfall in that snowpack at the current time.
Wow. I guess looking at the silver lining, at least the navigable waterways have seen some level improvement there. Now, let's look at the first full week of April. How warm will it be?
We're trying to get some warmth going here, and yeah, this will be a nice change coming off this spell of cold weather, especially as it applies to the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes region, over the eastern half of the country, above average temperatures. We will not be able to get rid of anytime soon these cold pockets of air. There is a lot of snowpack and cover through the Canadian prairie as well. Note the trough over the middle part of the country. So again, systems come ashore. Issues again for California, too much of a good thing. More late season snow for the northern and central Rockies, and an active weather pattern across much of the heartland, the Corn Belt, with severe weather from the border of trade on southward, snow to the north, some drying out, maybe some opportunity for field work in the deep south.
Do you see any significant change for that week of April 10th then?
From a temperature standpoint, there's an eastward progression. There's a flattening of the trough, and so kind of get used to these lobes. It'll be kind of swinging back and forth much of the spring season into early summertime as well. It's the cold that makes the rain, by the way, folks. And note the warmth here over the southeastern part of the country. Opportunities to get out and assess things. Hopefully you're doing that coming off the frost and freeze over the past couple of weeks. And here is this jet stream pattern, still west to east,
Fast-moving features, late season snow for the upper Midwest, Pacific Northwest, severe weather, but maybe some moisture for the drought areas. The central and southeastern plains will dry it out over the southeastern part of the country. Not much opportunity for corn belt planting foreseen.
That heat appeared to be fairly impressive at the southeast U.S. Will that continue there into the week of April 17?
I think we get that ridge to flatten on out somewhat. The trough reestablishes itself. The cold eases somewhat. Will fragment the ridge here and over the southwestern part of the country too. But again, you still have this main trough position, a range of temperatures across the middle part of the country. So you get this. We continue with what should be a pretty busy, more active severe weather season. Plains and corn belt locales into the northeast of New England. Rains over the deep south and southeastern states up towards the Sioux, back to the Black Hills, Big Sky Country, late season snows. We finally get some dry time. Would you believe we're saying that? Into parts of California. Dry time as well for the Rio Grande Valley of western Texas. A busy springtime season ahead.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, spotlighting another great American tractor.
The message came in with all of those tractor pictures this week, and I thought, wait just a minute. Something isn't quite right here. I'll explain at Max's Tractor Shed. It's brought to you by the folks at Mystic Lubricants. With the help of Mystic Lubes, you can keep your machines working harder for longer, season after season. Mystic Lubricants, made to make it last. Well, at first blush, I thought, oh, they're painting a Ford tractor with that blue paint. And then I started to look a little closer at the tractor. That is not a Ford. That's a Farmall. Now, Farmall, in the International Harvester line, they did have blue paint, but not in that location. Here's the story. This is a 1941 Farmall H. And, yep, it was painted blue and yellow. But the FFA chapter at Tremont, Illinois, they've put in a lot of work on that vintage Farmall with the help of some folks in the community who have really stepped up to help make it all possible. And I hear there's a rumor that beautiful yellow and blue FFA Farmall H might make it to the Half Century of Progress later this year, where you can see it in person. Get those dates on your calendar. August 24th through the 27th, Rantoul, Illinois, for the Half Century. We hear Mark Stock will be there. He's here right now, looking ahead to what's selling next week at Big Iron.
Max, land is still a hot commodity. Sullivan Auctioneers will be selling land in Knox County, Missouri, Mercer County, Illinois, Rock Island County, Illinois, just to name a few here the first part of next week. In addition to some of the machinery sales, McFarms Inc. out of Mount Pleasant, Iowa. That big retirement sale is also on Wednesday, March the 29th. Big Iron will be hosting the Martin & Sons retirement sale. The equipment located by Franklin, Indiana features a John Deere 7420 tractor. There's a John Deere 892D LC excavator. I've also got a retirement sale of construction-related equipment from Halstead, Kansas for Brandt and Brandt. This sale includes 468 items. There's a John Deere 200C LC excavator, a Cat 140G motor grader, a Cat 926 wheel loader. They've got a day cab semi-truck. They've got 4 2020 year model SV 280B skid steers. Folks, this is an outstanding lineup selling here on Tuesday, March the 28th. March 29th on BigIron.com, Hilton Hayes from Wapello, Iowa will be selling a 1992 John Deere 4055 mechanical front tractor with a recent engine overhaul. There's a John Deere 8520T track tractor, also a John Deere 9750 combine. Plus on March the 29th, Ricky Taylor from Chico, Texas will be selling a Magnum 200 CVT mechanical front tractor that only has 623 hours. So if you're looking for land, if you're looking for machinery, check out the BigIron.com and Sullivan Auctioneers websites for auction action next week.
Our FFA Chapter Tribute is brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. Now it's time to learn what's next for ag leaders. Joining us this week is Karsten Cantrell. She serves as the National FFA Central Region Vice President. She's of Collinsville, Oklahoma originally. Karsten, thanks for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me.
What was it that prompted you to want to be an FFA member all those years ago?
I'm really blessed to be fourth generation on our family's cow-calf operation. So I've always grown up really deeply rooted within the agricultural industry, and I made the really seamless transition from the green 4-H jacket to the blue FFA jacket whenever I was in 8th grade.
As an FFA member, Karsten, did you enjoy participating in leadership at the chapter level?
More than anything, I was really blessed to have an older brother who is an FFA, and he set really high standards and paved the way for me to find opportunities that I would really enjoy. So growing up, I was involved with a multitude of different career development events and leadership development events that ultimately allowed me to find success and continue my journey within the FFA, which has ultimately led me to where I am today.
And that journey continues. Now you're serving at the national level. And Karsten, what was it about FFA that made you want to work at the national level of the organization?
So FFA is structured on 3 levels. There's local, state, and national. And as I had the opportunity to serve as a chapter officer at the SkyTech FFA chapter, I wanted to give back to the state of Oklahoma. And so I served as an Oklahoma state officer. And by the end of my term, I realized that I wasn't done. I was unaware of the opportunities that were in front of me, and I just knew that I wanted to give back to an organization that had given me so much. And I wanted students to feel like they could be represented in an organization. And anytime that you see someone in a blue and gold jacket, you want to know that you have a part in their story. And I just wanted to encourage FFA members to be who they truly were and say yes to opportunities. So as the opportunity arose, I ran for National FFA office and have just continued to go down this path and wanting to bring honor to the agricultural industry and to my traditional roots, but at the same time, allow students just to see all that lies ahead.
That's fantastic. Said yes to the opportunity to raise the profile of agriculture. Karsten Cantrell, we wish you the best in your term as the National FFA Central Region Vice President. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. Max, there are a couple of stories we talk about, it seems, time and time again. One of them recently has been the Waters of the U.S. rule. We've seen so much back and forth on that. Court hearings and court decisions are coming down right now. It's a big issue.
It was one we wanted to pursue this week with the president of the largest farm group in the country at the American Farm Bureau. Zippy Duvall was in his office. As we came calling, I asked him about that. Give us a little perspective from your group on what's happening with what they call WOTUS, Waters of the United States.
Well, that ping pong just keeps bouncing back and forth from one end of the table to one administration to the other, and you know, we're really looking for somewhere where it can settle and give us something that we can make long-term planning off of. Unfortunately, we had encouraged this administration to wait about releasing this rule, but they decided they'd go ahead and do it. We was trying to get them to wait for the second case to be ruled on in the Supreme Court. We think that if that ruling comes down the right way, they'll have to take the new rule back to the drawing board. So we're very disappointed in how it's come down. But you know, now we've had a stay by one of the district federal judges to not allow this ruling to go in effect for Texas and Idaho. And I think that sends a strong message to EPA that they've really overstepped their bounds again.
The courts have become a very important place to resolve issues for farmers. Sometimes you just can't get the answer out of Congress. How do you address that? How would you summarize that for a Farm Bureau member watching?
Well, you know, unfortunately, we all do end up in the courts, and whether it's us against the government or whether it's the environmental groups against the government, they have to walk that tightrope over to EPA to try to minimize those. But we depend on sound science, and we depend on sound science to guide all regulations and all policies that are passed. And you know, and that's what we keep harping on. You got to use sound science to do that. And in the absence of being able to find the right way through regulation and do it by sound science, then we have to revert to what we might can do on the Hill through a pass of a law that might control that. So we continue to work at ways to try to minimize the damage these rules and regulations would have on our farms and our farm communities.
Seems like we've seen in a number of administrations the strength of the Environmental Protection Agency administrator. It's almost more influential, that individual, on farmers and ranchers in this country than the Ag Secretary is.
It is, and you know, you would hope that they do a lot of discussion between the two departments. And historically, we've had EPAs and USDAs that haven't talked to each other at all. I don't think that's the situation now. I do think that Secretary Vilsack and Administrator Regan do talk and talk about things before they turn loose of rulings. But This one, we're on the opposite side, and we're going to continue to fight against waters of the U.S. and anything that's going to come down the pipe to affect our farmers' ability to continue to be sustainable.
What's your sense about the sentiment among members of Congress on waters of the United States? Where are they?
I think the majority of them are concerned about the overreach of the federal government, but I think they all are just like all the farmers. You know, we know that we're stewards of the natural resources and the water that comes off our place, and we're interested in doing the right thing. But we just think this rule goes way too far. It really muddied the water, and it makes it difficult for us to understand what areas are waters of the U.S., what are not. And we just think we deserve to have a rule that it doesn't require us to have a bank of lawyers or consultants to help tell us what we can and can't do on our farm.
It's one of those stories that just goes on and on. Maybe there will be finally one of these days a conclusion, and farmers know then where they stand.
That would be nice. I think folks across the country would be relieved to see some consistency on that issue, Max.
We look forward to seeing you next weekend here, pal. You will be here, won't you?
I will be here, yes, sir.
We'll be checking. We'll take attendance with you. And with you too, folks. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Agribusiness. Have a great, safe week. This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Case IH. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by Omax Communications in association with 22 Creative Group. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.